My mom ripped my daughter's award in front of everyone, so I CUT her off for good. She tore up June's spelling bee certificate and tossed it like trash, so I blocked her, locked down the school, and pulled the last money link, but she tried a new way in. I was watching from the sidelines, quietly getting angrier by the second. June was standing beside my mom, holding out the spelling bee certificate with both hands like it was something sacred. Her cheeks were pink, not from embarrassment, but from excitement. She'd won first place that week, her school-wide spelling bee, 30 kids competing, and she beat them all. She had asked if she could give it to Nana because she wanted her to be proud. She said, "I saved this just for her." I told her then she should be the one to have it. I don't know what I expected. Maybe not a huge reaction, but something, a smile, a hug, maybe even a compliment. Instead, I sat and watched my mother take the certificate like she was being handed a napkin. Give it a quick look and say in that cold, flat voice she uses when she thinks no one will challenge her, "You can't earn love with paper." Then, right in front of all of us, she tore it down the middle and tossed it in the trash bin under the serving table. No one said a word, no gasp, no awkward laugh, not even my dad, who just reached for his wine like this was all normal. My brother Adam's kids were too busy with their phones to notice. His wife saw it. She always sees everything but pretended she didn't. And June. She just stood there, still holding the envelope, which was now completely pointless. Her eyes were wide, but she didn't cry. She just looked different, like something had shifted, like something had broken, and she was trying to figure out whether it was small enough to fix or too big to name. I wanted to get up. I wanted to scream at my mom or grab the certificate pieces from the trash or just pull June into my arms, but I didn't move. My whole body felt like it was full of wet cement, but Riley moved. He didn't hesitate. She put her fork down loud enough for the sound to echo and stood up. She looked straight at my mom and said, "Do that again. And I swear I'll tell Mom to cut you off. You don't deserve her help if this is how you treat her kids." The silence that followed was louder than anything I'd heard all night. My mom gave a short fake laugh like she didn't believe Riley had it in her. Adam kept his eyes on his plate. My dad cleared his throat but didn't say anything. The air felt thick. Riley didn't back down. She didn't yell, didn't get dramatic, just stood next to her little sister like a wall, and I realized she had been waiting. She had been holding all of this in for years. Watching how June tried so hard to win love that was never going to be given. Watching how I kept the peace. How I stayed quiet to make things easier. Riley saw everything. He always has. That's when I knew it wasn't just about the certificate. Not even close. This was about years of being second place in a family where love came with strings, conditions, and a scoreboard that never worked in our favor. And I just sat there still watching from the sidelines, but something had shifted in me too. It was the first time I actually started to wonder if Riley was right. Maybe it really was time to stop pretending. The ride home felt like being sealed in a vacuum. No one talked. Riley's hand stayed at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel, her jaw clenched the entire time. June sat behind me, staring out the window like she was somewhere else. I kept glancing back at her through the mirror, hoping she'd meet my eyes, but she didn't. She looked small. Not just young, but smaller. Like someone had taken something out of her that couldn't be replaced. I opened my mouth twice to say something. Maybe I'm sorry, or you didn't deserve that, or even just are you okay? But every version sounded hollow, like it wouldn't be enough. Riley didn't say a single word until we got home. She parked in the driveway and just sat there for a few seconds. He's still in the ignition. Then she said she humiliated her on purpose. I didn't know what to say, so I stayed quiet. Riley finally looked at me. "You helped her pay for their new roof. You paid half the down payment on their stupid car." And she couldn't even pretend to care about June for 5 seconds. Her voice didn't shake. It was steady, almost too calm. That was worse somehow. I told her I wasn't expecting it, that I didn't think my mom would, but Riley cut me off. "You didn't think she'd do something like that? Have you met her?" I didn't argue. I couldn't because I had thought she'd do something. Maybe brush it off or make a passive comment, but tearing it up in front of everyone, tossing it like a used napkin. Even I hadn't seen that coming. Riley got out and slammed the door hard enough to make the windows rattle. June followed her in quietly, still holding the empty envelope like she hadn't noticed there was nothing in it anymore. I stayed in the car for a few more minutes. Just sat there in the dark trying to figure out how I got to this point. Helping my parents pay their bills every month while getting told I was raising emotional kids, giving them grocery money while my mom rolled her eyes at June's piano recital. It wasn't just the money. It was the fact that no matter what I gave, they always looked past me, past my girls, as if my brother's family was the real one and we were just extras hanging around the edges. The next morning, while the girls were still asleep, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and logged into the joint account I shared with my mom. It was the same account I used when she said her card had been declined, or when their water heater broke, or when Adam suddenly couldn't afford the repair work on their parents' house. I didn't hesitate. I clicked her off, changed the passwords, removed her name from everything I could without making it a legal war. By lunchtime, I had 3 missed calls, 2 from her, 1 from my dad. I let them go to voicemail. The first one was short, confused. She asked if something was wrong with the bank. The second one was sharper. She said she needed to make a payment and her card wasn't working, said I should check it right away. The third was colder. She said if this is about that little scene on Saturday, don't be ridiculous. Kids get their feelings hurt. That's what they do. It's not the end of the world. Still not a word about June. Later that night, Riley came into the kitchen and saw my phone lighting up again. Another call from home. She didn't say anything until the ringing stopped. Then she said, if you change your mind, I won't forgive you. I told her I wasn't going to, that it was done. She nodded, then turned to go back to her room. Right before she left, she added, this isn't the first time, it's just the first time I said something that stayed with me. Because she was right. There had been dozens of moments, maybe more, but I had gotten used to keeping the peace, swallowing it, making excuses, and my girls had noticed. Riley had noticed everything. The next day, Adam texted me. He said, Mom says her card's not working, you good? I replied, tell her I'll mail her the certificate pieces so she can finish the job. He never texted back. That night I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I didn't answer, but I had a feeling it was just the beginning. It was 4 days before my mom dropped the act. At first, she pretended it was a bank error. She called, left a message asking if there was some issue on my end. Maybe the account got flagged, maybe a payment bounced. She used that fake concerned tone, the one she slips into when she wants something but doesn't want to sound like she does. I didn't call back. I didn't text. I let the silence do the talking. On the 4th day, I picked up by mistake. I was making lunch and the phone was buzzing on the counter. I didn't look. I just hit answer like I always used to. Her voice came through sharp. Not furious yet, but not soft either. He skipped the pleasantries. So you're just cutting us off now? I said I wasn't cutting anyone off. I just made a change. She didn't like that. Her voice jumped 2 octaves and turned brittle. She accused me of acting out of emotion, said I was letting a teenager dictate my finances. She brought up Riley like she was the villain in some family soap opera. You're letting a high schooler manipulate you into punishing your own parents. I told her I wasn't punishing anyone. I said I was setting a boundary. That's when the switch flipped. She called me ungrateful. Said she and Dad had sacrificed for years, that I'd be nowhere without them. Then she said the worst part, you're raising those girls to be fragile. I didn't hang up. I just set the phone down on the counter and walked away. That afternoon, my dad sent me a picture of a gas bill, no context, just the total at the bottom circled in red. I didn't reply. The next day, it was a voicemail. Her voice trying to sound calm, asking for help. Just this once, just the water bill, just the difference on the insurance this month. He said, it won't be forever, it always was. 2 more days passed, then she called Riley. Riley came into the kitchen with her phone in her hand, eyebrows raised. She said, Nana just called me a brat. Apparently, Riley had answered, thinking maybe it was something important. It wasn't. My mom had called to tell her she was out of line, disrespectful, and had no business speaking like that to an elder. I could tell Riley was more stunned than hurt. I told her, you don't have to answer if she calls again. He said, I won't. The next morning, I heard gravel crunching outside. I looked out the window and saw my dad's car pulling into the driveway. They hadn't texted, no heads up. Just showed up like it was 1998 and we were still playing by their rules. I opened the door before they could knock. June was at a friend's house for a sleepover. Riley was upstairs in her room. My mom walked right past me into the living room. My dad followed but kept near the door. We're not here to fight, she said. I didn't say anything. She said they couldn't live like this, that their income wasn't enough, that the cost of everything had gone up, and that what I was doing, cutting off the joint account, was cruel and dramatic. Then she pulled an envelope out of her bag. Inside were photos, old ones. Me holding Riley as a baby. June at a Christmas concert, all of us at the beach 10 years ago. She spread them out on the coffee table like exhibits in a case she thought she was winning. This is your family. You don't just walk away from this. I looked at the photos and I remembered those moments, but I also remembered what came after each of them. The comments, the cold shoulders, the quiet favoritism, the things left unsaid that somehow weighed more than the things that were. Then Riley came down the stairs. She looked at the photos, then at my mom. She said, did you bring the spelling certificate too, or is that still in your trash? My mom opened her mouth, but nothing came out. My dad looked like he wanted to disappear. Then Riley looked at me, not mad, not pleading, ready. If they won't leave, I will. I stood up and told them it was time to go. My mom scoffed. She actually scoffed like the whole thing was beneath her. My dad muttered something I couldn't hear. And they left without a word of apology, without even pretending to mean it. The door clicked shut behind them, and for the first time in years, the house felt quiet in the right way. The house was silent after they left, but it didn't feel peaceful. Not yet. Riley sat down at the kitchen table like nothing had happened, scrolling through her phone while I stood in the hallway, still staring at the closed door. My heart was racing like it had somewhere to be, but everything else in me felt still. That night, Riley said something that stayed with me. She said, "She's not done, she doesn't know how to be done, she'll try something." Asked her like, "What?" Riley shrugged. "She'll twist it, make herself the victim, maybe turn it into some big thing about you abandoning her. She'll tell Adam a version that makes you look crazy, then she'll try to get in through someone else. Maybe Dad, maybe even me again, just wait." I wanted to believe Riley was being dramatic, I really did. But deep down, I already knew she was right. My mother was the type who needed control like oxygen. She didn't yell to get it, she didn't beg, she rewrote quietly. Behind the scenes, she planted seeds and then stood back while they grew into confusion. I didn't expect her to stay gone for long. It started 2 days later with a neighbor. I was bringing in the trash bins when Mrs. Clemens, who lived 3 houses down, stopped me on the sidewalk. She said she ran into my mom while walking her dog, said, "My mom seemed worried about you and the girls." She used that word, worried. Not concerned, not curious. Worried, said, "My mom had mentioned I'd been under a lot of stress lately and how it was so hard raising 2 daughters alone." I smiled politely, nodded, and went back inside. I locked the door not because I felt unsafe, but because I knew what was coming. 3 days after that, I started getting envelopes in the mail. No return address. Each one had a photo inside. First was of me and Adam as kids on the swings in our old backyard. The second was my high school graduation, me smiling, my mom's arm around me like we were best friends. No notes, just the pictures. At first, I thought maybe she was just trying to get to me emotionally, but then I realized something else. She was laying groundwork for someone. Maybe Adam, maybe my dad, maybe the neighbors, maybe even for herself. Building a narrative she could stand on when the cracks started showing. But the third one, that one was different. It was taped to my driver's side mirror while I was inside the grocery store, a photo of my dad holding Riley when she was 3. They were both laughing. I remember that day. I took the picture. That time I didn't throw it out. I brought it home and showed Riley. She just shook her head and said, "This is how she apologizes, through guilt." That night while Riley and June were doing homework, I got a call from Adam. He said, "Hey, I've been meaning to ask, is everything okay with Mom and Dad?" I told him to fine, okay. He sighed. "She said things got weird after the dinner. She didn't say much, but she hinted you're pulling away." I asked him if she told him why. He said she said something about June getting upset over a joke. "I don't know, Sarah." She said it was a misunderstanding. I was quiet for a second. Then I asked him, "Do you really think it's a misunderstanding when someone tears up a kid's award in front of everyone and throws it in the trash?" He went silent. Then he said, "I didn't know it was like that." Exactly. Because she never told him. He mumbled something about how they're getting older and things are hard for them. Then he said something I didn't expect. She asked me to look into co-signing on a loan, said she was short this month. That's when I realized what this all was. Not just guilt, not just manipulation. She was building a case. Laying down a trail of photos and half-truths and concerns so if I didn't come back, she could find someone else to fix it. I told Adam not to do it. I said, "You signed that loan and you'll be stuck with it. I'm warning you." He didn't say yes or no, just said he'd think about it. The next day, Riley asked if she could visit June during lunch at school. I said, "Sure." She picked up cupcakes and a printed copy of the spelling certificate, one she'd scanned before dinner that night. Even laminated it. She said it was for June's Hall of Fame wall, said, "Every winner should have a place to shine." June lit up when she saw it. When they got home, June handed me something folded in half. It was a note written in my mom's all-caps handwriting, not cursive. She only used block letters when she was serious or angry. Read, "I miss my girls. I'll say sorry if that's what it takes." But we both know this isn't really about the paper. Please think, it hadn't been mailed, it wasn't in an envelope, it had just been in June's cubby at school. I asked June if anyone gave it to her. She said no. It was just there when she came back from recess. That's when I felt something shift again. Not fear, not doubt, but something colder. A line had been crossed and she didn't even see it. She was showing up at my daughter's school, bypassing me, reaching out to an 8-year-old because she couldn't control me. She thought that note would soften me. It didn't. It hardened something. And that was the moment I stopped waiting for an apology because I knew then she wasn't sorry. He was just regrouping. After the second note showed up at June's school, this time with money folded inside, I knew I couldn't keep pretending this would pass. It was deliberate now, quietly invasive. My mother had crossed into something else entirely, something I couldn't explain away or soften. She wasn't trying to apologize. She was trying to reassert control the only way she knew how, by reaching around me. The note was in a small white envelope buried in June's backpack between her reading folder and math worksheet. Inside was a $50 bill neatly folded in half and a short message written in the same blocky handwriting as before. For your next win. Love, Nana. Riley saw me open it. She didn't say a word at first, just stared at the money. Then she took it out of my hand, walked to the sink, and tore it down the middle like it was nothing. I flinched, not because of the money, but because of the finality of the gesture. She said if she thinks she can buy back her spot with this, she's more clueless than I thought. She tossed the pieces in the trash and walked out. That night I sat at my laptop and blocked my mom everywhere. Cell number, email, every account she'd used to message me in the past. I didn't stop there. I blocked my dad too. Not because he had done anything directly, but because he hadn't stopped her, because he stood by while it happened. Because I knew without question, the next note or gift would show up from his hand if hers was blocked. Then I called June's school and made it official. Only Riley and I were to be allowed for pickups, drop-offs, or any kind of school contact. No exceptions. Didn't give them a reason, just said family issues. The woman on the phone didn't ask. He just said, got it, and confirmed it in writing. The next morning, I didn't feel guilty. I felt clean, quiet. That feeling lasted about 36 hours. Then Adam showed up at my front door. No text, no call, just rang the bell like he still had the right to walk into my life unannounced. I opened the door and stepped out before he could. He didn't waste time. Are you seriously blocking Mom now? I told him she went to June's school twice. That gave him pause. Not enough, but enough. He said she's been trying to reach you. He's crying. She doesn't understand what she did wrong. I asked him if she told him what happened at dinner. He shifted a little, not looking directly at me. She said there was a misunderstanding, that maybe she was too blunt. I laughed because of course she did. A misunderstanding is how my mother erases the parts of herself she doesn't want to claim. Then I asked him something I hadn't planned to. Did she ask you to co-sign a loan? His face gave it away before he could speak. I said, don't do it, you'll regret it. She's not telling you the truth about what's going on. He said, she's struggling, Sarah. They're getting older. You're not even willing to talk to them anymore. What do you expect them to do? I looked at him and asked, if someone did that to your daughter, ripped something she was proud of, told her she couldn't earn love, made her feel worthless in front of everyone, what would you do? He didn't answer. I told him the part he didn't know, that the money had shown up in June's backpack, that she'd used her access to a child as a new channel. He said, she just wants to be part of their lives, maybe she doesn't know how anymore. I said, then maybe she shouldn't be. And I went back inside. That night, while Riley was watching something in the living room and June was brushing her teeth, my phone buzzed again. An unknown number. The message was short. Still your mother, still family, don't forget who we are. I stared at it for a long time. And then, just out of habit, I scrolled through my photos until I found the scan of June's certificate, the one Riley had saved. I zoomed in on her name, all in bold at the top. First place, Jun Spencer, and I realized something right then. This was never about one dinner or one torn certificate. It was about how many little things I'd excused. How many times I told my girls to be patient, to be polite, to try harder with people who never earned it. That night, I deleted the message, blocked the number, and turned off my phone completely. And for the first time in years, I didn't check it again before bed. The next week was quiet in the way a room feels right after someone slams a door. No calls, no texts, no notes, no sudden pop-ups at the house, just nothing. And the longer it lasted, the more I knew it wasn't over. My mother wasn't giving up. She was recalculating, waiting for a new angle. She always believed silence was power, not punishment. It made her feel like she had the high ground. But what she didn't realize this time was that I'd already stepped off the battlefield. By Thursday, Riley brought it up again. She asked if I'd heard anything. I told her no. She nodded like she expected that. Then she said, you know you've got to block Dad's number too, right? I told her I already had. She looked surprised, not because I did it, but because I did it before she asked. Good, she said. Later that night, I found June in her room putting up the reprinted certificate on her wall. She had taped a little star-shaped note under it in marker. I worked hard for this. And for a second, I felt this wave of guilt, not for what I'd done, but for how long I waited to do it. For all the Saturdays, I brought them into a house where love came with strings, conditions, and silent rules about who deserved more. That Saturday, Riley got a DM on Instagram from a family friend, someone who still talked to my mom. It said, your grandma's been posting old photos of you and your sister. She wrote this whole thing about how family falls apart when pride gets in the way. Riley didn't even finish reading it. She showed me the message, rolled her eyes, and said, I told you he was just regrouping. I went and checked for myself. My mom had made her profile public. It was covered in old photos. Me in college, Riley and Jun's babies, my wedding. Each one had a caption that danced around the truth just enough to sound believable if he didn't know better. She used phrases like, some wounds take time to heal. And when family shuts you out, it's like losing a limb. She didn't say my name, he didn't have to, I didn't comment, I didn't reach out. I just sat with it for a minute, letting it settle. Because in her mind, this was her comeback, her quiet little campaign to win back the version of the story she could live with. But what she didn't understand, what she never would, is that I wasn't angry anymore. I was finished. 2 days later, I went into our bank account and pulled the last thread that was still connecting us. The shared access to the trust my grandparents had set up when I was a kid. It wasn't much, but she still used it for things like medications and extra groceries. I had left it alone out of guilt. But that morning, I looked at the girls eating breakfast and thought, no more. I removed her name, closed her card, and rerouted the remaining funds. I didn't warn her. I didn't explain because there comes a point where explaining starts to feel like apologizing, and I wasn't sorry. That afternoon, the screaming started not at my house, but through voicemail. 5 missed calls, 7 voicemails. Her voice going from hurt to rage to panic to guilt. One message from my dad to come controlled saying we needed to talk, that I was making things harder than they had to be. Riley saw me standing by the sink with the phone in my hand. He asked, "Is it done now?" I said, "It's done." She nodded. "Then what about if he calls from her phone? Block that too." Riley exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for weeks. June peeked around the corner holding a bowl of cereal and said, "Can we paint my wall this weekend?" I smiled. "Yeah, any color you want," she said, "even orange." Even orange. The next weekend, we painted June's wall a ridiculous shade of tangerine. Riley helped tape the edges. There was music playing, cereal bowls on the floor, and laughter that didn't sound like anyone was pretending. And for once, there were no shadows in the room, no texts, no calls, no quiet tension buzzing underneath everything. Just a bright orange wall. 2 kids who finally knew where they stood.